Welcome back. May is Brain Cancer and Tumor Awareness Month, and my guests today, dedicated to educating people on the impact of the disease, are Shannon and Dr. David. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Shannon, I'm going to begin with you. You've been on Daytime Buffalo before, but can you briefly just share a little bit about your personal experience with brain cancer and how it touched your life?
Sure. So brain cancer, glioblastoma specifically, entered my life in the tail end of 2019 before the pandemic hit. My 44-year-old husband was diagnosed 6 weeks before we were set to bring home our adopted baby girl that we waited 2.5 years for. We then lost the adoption due to his cancer diagnosis, and 14 months later, at the age of 45, he died from his disease. We were together for about 20 years. So it set me down a course of figuring out how I could turn my pain into purpose. And that led me to starting the Game on Glio podcast, which I thought I was only going to do 1 or 2 seasons of, and it blew up globally and became a top-rating, top 10% podcast globally. And so here we are, 4 seasons later, 37 episodes out, and we're doing the podcast. And I do a lot of public speaking on advocacy and grief and loss and brain cancer education.
Tell us a little bit more about Game on Glio and the format of the show.
Sure. So Game on Glio is a podcast. We do both audio and video episodes. We air twice a month for roughly, we kick off in May, which is Brain Cancer and Brain Tumor Awareness Month. So we usually kick off each season in May, and then we'll run through the end of the year. And we have various guests on that will talk about grief and loss. They'll talk about their brain cancer journey if they're a patient. If they're a caregiver, they'll talk about that experience. We also have clinicians, neurosurgeons, neuro-oncologists on. A great example of that, we have sponsors that have been amazingly supportive of the show nationally and globally. And Dr. David Andrews and his team at Imvax are one of those sponsors who have been immensely supportive of the work that we do. I just had a guest on who hasn't aired yet, but she's in Ireland. She's got glioblastoma. She's 34 years old, and she's going to be a guest on our show this year.
Wow. Well, Dr. Andrews, can you tell us a little bit about your role with Imvax and the important work that you're doing there?
Sure. So I've been what you call a translational physician, so I'm interested in clinical research. And that all started in my training in New York City in the 80s, actually, so it's been a long voyage for me. I spent a year at Sloan Kettering and eventually led to the ability to start a company based on what is called translational research, or doing research in animals first, and then that leads you to what is called a phase 1 trial, where you do a safety trial with actual patients. And safety is the major outcome, but everyone's looking for what impact does this have? And I'll go into what that is. We had unexpected clinical results that I was really amazed by, and I'm my own worst critic actually when it comes to that. It's like, do I really believe this? And actually, I engaged investors, and we started the company in 2015. We published the phase 1b trial data 2-3 years ago, and that's the basis for what is called a phase 2 trial. So it's going up the FDA ladder. Right. So now the phase 2b trial is one that the FDA has a much higher stringency in terms of proving that you've really got something. And I'm happy to say that this month we're concluding the actually accrual of the phase 2b trial of 100 patients.
Wow. Okay.
And this is all in glioblastoma. I mean, that's the importance of this, is that the work that they're doing at Imvax, this clinical trial could really help benefit patients with brain cancer.
Right. And you both have done amazing work raising money for research and clinical trials. Do you want to share how much money you've been able to raise so far?
So I can share that, I do a fundraiser through my company, Right Life Media, and Game on Glio. We've raised money for Cervaxone vaccine and for other clinical trials across the nation. And to date, in the last 2.5-3 years, we've raised nearly $75,000.
Incredible, incredible work. And can you just speak to the importance of fundraisers like these for these clinical trials?
Well, sure. I mean, that's how it all starts. I mean, clinical trials like the one that Imvax doesn't happen without philanthropy and investors and companies and foundations that are willing to invest in the work that they're doing. You need labs, you need technicians, you need to be able to do trials, recruit patients, have hospitals get involved. And that doesn't happen without funding. And unfortunately, there's a lot of red tape that goes with that. And so funding, having foundations and other companies that can raise money and awareness and help back clinical trials like the one at Imvax is crucial, because it doesn't happen without that. And when it comes to brain cancer, we need to be more aggressive in funding these type of clinical trials, because it literally is the deadliest cancer out there, and there is no cure. And we have younger and younger patients diagnosed every year. It's not acceptable.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have both dedicated your lives to great work and trying to, like you said, turn your pain into purpose. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing what you do. And viewers, you can learn more about each of these organizations by visiting their websites and connecting with them on social media at the links right there on your screen. Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.